Okay, my Workday Playdate peeps, let's get real for a sec. Have you ever felt like you were one mistake away from your career crumbling? Or maybe you've been too afraid to take a risk, too worried about what others might think, or worse, that you'll fail spectacularly. Well, here's the truth. Mistakes are not the enemy. They're the path to mastery. But no one talks about that enough now, do they? We all see the LinkedIn glow-ups, the polished success stories on Instagram, but we rarely, and I said rarely, hear about the missteps, the failures, and the wild courage it takes to go after what you really want. That's why today we're diving deep with somebody who gets it. Jenny Wood spent 18 years climbing the ranks at Google, from entry level to executive. But that's not even the coolest part. She built one of the biggest career development programs in Google's history, helping tens of thousands of people own their careers with confidence. And now she's bringing all that wisdom to us. Jenny is going to show us how to be bold, a little weird, totally shameless, and yes, even a little reckless in pursuit of what we want. Because courage isn't just for heroes, it's for leaders like you. So buckle up, because we're about to take your mistakes into mastery. Let's go. Before we get into it, though, let's talk about the problem. Why is this so hard? Why do so many leaders struggle with career confidence? It's because we're wired to avoid discomfort and failure. A Harvard Business Review study found that the fear of failure is the number one reason people don't take career risks. The spotlight effect, which we're going to talk about in the show, is the idea that we think people notice our mistakes way more than they actually do. But spoiler alert, they don't. Imposter syndrome is real. Even the best leaders battle it. Studies show that 70% of high achievers experience imposter syndrome at some point in their careers. And as leaders, we feel like we have to have it all together. But in reality, the best leaders embrace failure and use it to grow. So what do? We learn how to own our weirdness, our failures, and our boldest selves. And that's exactly what Jenny is here to teach it. Let's dive in. Music, please. Welcome to the Workday Playdate podcast. Jenny Wood.
Jenny Wood in the house.
Jenny Wood in the house. Now, I just found out this fun fact about you. You are also an improviser. And tell us, you just did it at a very small company. Tell us your improv background, your experience, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's relatively minor, but I helped lead the Google Boulder Improv fun group. So
Yes.
never performed on stage, but I just have always loved, I guess I've taken some classes, back in my younger year. But I just loved people having an hour to shake it off every Tuesday at Google and helped get that organized.
I love it. I love it. So we call our audience the peeps, okay? The Improve It peeps. So you're talking to the peeps today. And
hey, peeps.
Hey, peeps. We always have an intention for every month that we do the show. So the intention for this month is team building and collaboration. But if you were to say a one-word intention that you want to give or receive today through this conversation, what would it be?
Trust.
Oh, I like that. Right on the money. Tell me about trust. Why did you pick that word?
Well, I'm in a really hard point of life right now. I left Google after being there 18 years, rose from entry level to executive, to make this massive bet on myself, Erin, to leave my big time paycheck where I'm the breadwinner for my family. And I'm like, let's just leave to be a starving artist. Let's just leave to be an author. And so I'm putting a lot of time, money, energy, passion, sleepless nights into getting this message of wild courage out to the world. And Erin, I don't know if it's going to work or not. So whereas I felt so confident at Google and felt like I worked hard, I rose, I had all these people who reported to me, who trusted me and who, were excited about what I was doing and were eager to like be part of my efforts, whether it was my core operations role that sat between sales and engineering or my passion project, which was starting this program at Google called Own Your Career, which grew to tens of thousands of people using it. Like I knew what that world looked like. I don't know what this world looks like. I don't know if this book is going to be successful. I don't know how many, keynote speaking gigs I'll get in 2025. And I just have to trust. I just have to trust that I'm doing the right things, that there's only so much that I can control and I gotta let go. So trust.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. And I think that's a good message for all of us. And I want to talk too about your book because it encourages people. It's called Wild Courage, first and foremost. It encourages people to be a little weird, right? And so I want to talk about why you think, listen, I'm down for that. Like you already know what this show's about. So why is that so important when it comes to career growth?
Yeah. Well, it's important to career growth. It's important to life growth. It's important to teamwork and collaboration. With all these 9 traits that I say make up wild courage, it's about reclaiming them. So weird is the courage to stand out because within your so-called weirdness lie your greatest strengths. So I say hone every ounce of weirdness you've got. And it doesn't necessarily mean being outlandish or obnoxious. And, for example, I had this really icky moment in 7th grade where I said something ridiculous to the 7th grade teacher. Real short story. She said, "Does anyone have any questions?" First day, I didn't know a soul. I was looking for a laugh and I improv'd in all the wrong ways. And I said, "I have a question. Are you a virgin?" Okay. That is not the kind of weird we're looking for, right?
I didn't see that coming, Jenny. That was out of there. I like it.
Right. So like, that's not the kind of weird we're looking for. That's what I would call getting caught in a trait trap. These 9 traits that make up wild courage, but you can take them too far. Weird means give of yourself, give the best version of yourself, be confident in who you are and whatever it is, whatever your frequency is that is interesting. And even if it doesn't resonate with everybody, it resonates with some people. Here's like a small work example. This happened literally 15 minutes before we got on this podcast conversation. So I'm engaging my obsessed trait, which is the 4th trait of wild courage. And I am doing everything I can to make this book successful. So rather than just asking all of my big, fancy, famous author friends to, oh, hey, the book is coming out. If you're comfortable sharing, please do on social media or your newsletter. Like, no, I'm getting weird and I'm literally ghostwriting for them a newsletter that they can share with their audience. So like, I figure let's do the work for them and think about how this can apply to any work situation, right? Doing the work for them, making it easy, making it turnkey, putting in the effort, showing how passionate you are. Well, I floated this idea to do this for 30 big time authors to my publishing team and my PR team and my marketing team. And they were all like, Jenny, it's a little weird. Nobody really, it's a little too much. Like it might turn them off. It might look like you're a little too eager. Well, wild courage is all about letting your freak flag fly and showing that eagerness. So I just got this email back from this guy, Charlie, who's got a big audience. And he said, essentially, I was going to pull up the email, but just for time, he essentially said, "Oh my goodness, I have never had a fellow author put so much time and intentionality and effort into a newsletter. I've never been able to edit it in under 10 minutes. Kudos to you and Lauren, who helps me out with my newsletters. Kudos to you and Lauren. Like, this is fantastic. I will definitely share this." And it's like, I almost dimmed my own light with just a little bit of feedback from my publishing team and marketing team and PR team and seeing their faces kind of twitch on that Zoom call when they're like, "I don't know, Jenny, nobody really does that." But I decided to be weird anyway. And guess what? It works.
Yes. Okay. I'm so here for that. And genius of you. That's a genius idea. Do the work for them, right? And they can tweak it how they want to how they sound. But I think that's genius. So, okay. I love your vibe. I feel like you've got a lot of energy like me too. It's so funny because I feel like you and I are both like just very excitable people.
I think so.
But I'm also like, I feel like not only does this talk about this idea of being weird, we're talking about this idea of being a little selfish in your career too.
Sure.
And I gotta say, people pleasers are shaking in their boots on this show because we have a lot of people pleasers in this audience. And I know that because I am one and I talk about it a lot. And I hear from the peeps that this is something that they're going through too. So, even in this example of what you did, how can you champion yourself without feeling guilty? Like, how can you make that a part of your practice? And how do you pull that from the book?
Yeah, I think so. Selfish is the courage to stand up for what you want. And you might want something different than what I want, right? It's about being your own champion. It's the fact that if you give everybody a leg up at your own expense, you will end up getting trampled. So start showing up for yourself. I mean, here's an example of selfish. Selfish, not shellfish. That's I actually keep kosher, so I don't even eat. I don't eat shellfish. But whether shellfish is your jam or you want to be less of a people pleaser and get selfish, here's the conversation for you. All right, so it's 2011, and I'm riding the New York City subway home from work. And about 20 feet away from me stands this really good looking guy. Well, if we're just like sitting around waiting for life to happen to us, then we just like do nothing, right? But I was so taken by this guy and I was like, I want to get selfish. I want to talk to this guy. Like gorgeous blue eyes, thick wavy brown hair, right? Like the whole works. But something does hold me back, right? Like what if he's a convicted felon? What if he's married? What if 100 people stare at me while I make a fool of myself on this packed train? So I make a deal with the universe. I say, all right, if he gets off at my stop, 72nd Street, I'm going to get selfish and I'm going to strike up a conversation with him. And if not, then that's the universe telling me it wasn't meant to be. He gets off at 59th Street, not my stop. This wave of wild courage, Erin, washes over me. And just as the subway doors are about to close, I practically pry them open and I run off the train. So I chase him to catch up with him. I tap him on the shoulder. I say, excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. You're wearing gloves, so I can't tell if you're wearing a wedding ring, but in the event that you're not married, you were on my subway and I thought you were cute. Any chance I could give you my business card? Right? So long story short, he takes the card. We go on a date a week later. We get married 3 years later. We've now been married happily for 11 years with two little hooligans, ages 7 and 9. So, was it selfish of me to do that, to go after what I wanted that day, to muster the courage to chase my dreams and my goals and the relationship and the man that I wanted? Sure, call it selfish. But if you're not selfish, if you wait for life to happen to you, if you sit there on the subway as it passes stop after stop after stop, and as life passes you by, and if you live in people pleasing and don't ever stand up for what you want or who you want to ask out on a date or what project you want to ask for at work, or you asking your boss, if you can pull back on late night meetings because it's just too tough to do APAC meetings 3 days a week. Like that's the kind of selfishness that can create such a fulfilling, happy, productive life and work situation in your career.
Oh my God, I love that story. I was going to ask you about that story, so I'm so glad it came up. Did the New York Times write about it? Did I make that up? Okay.
No, you didn't make that up.
Okay.
So they wrote an article called Serendipity 1 Spreadsheet 0. It became one of their most viral articles of all time that this particular reporter, Lois Smith Brady, had written in her 30 years working at the Times. It turned out people wanted permission to ask for what they wanted, permission to be selfish, permission to live with wild courage. Now, why did they call it Serendipity 1 Spreadsheet 0? All right, well, I am a very left-brain thinker. I am very analytical. I live in spreadsheets all day. So when I was in New York City dating, I'm in Boulder now, Colorado, but when I was in New York City dating, I kept a spreadsheet, no joke, of all of my pending first dates. So let me break this down for you. We had name, height, age, snippet about I am not kidding. It's online.
God.
If you Google Jenny Wood entrepreneur, there is a screenshot of Jenny Wood Entrepreneur magazine. They ran an article around Valentine's Day. There's a screenshot of the spreadsheet. So a snippet of what we talked about on the first online conversation. So I'd have context for the first date. How excited am I? Scale of 1 to 3. And is he funny? Scale of 1 to 5. No pressure, gentlemen.
Oh my God. Good for you. And then you got an average and then you had their score and then
exactly.
Okay.
We found the delta and the standard deviation. Okay. No, but so here's the thing is, so that day on the subway, I just erred on the side of wild courage. I went with my gut.
Yeah.
I got selfish. I got shameless. I decided to tap into my need to be obsessed and go see about a guy, like they say in Good Will Hunting, right? And so So the reason they called it Serendipity 1, Spreadsheet 0 is because my ability to go with my gut that day, to think with my heart and not my head and not that analysis paralysis of all those online dates is what gave me the life that became so worth living with my amazing husband, John. I still maintain serendipity isn't found, it's made. And I did make my own serendipity that day, but the spreadsheet lost, the left brain thinking lost, the right brain thinking going with my gut won. And that's so applicable at work, right? Think about how often do we overanalyze an email? Do we spend, 51 minutes going back and forth to this important stakeholder or our boss's boss or the person we want to mentor us, back and forth on this email? Should the sentence say this? Should it say that? And it's like all of that is to me, spreadsheet thinking, as opposed to the wild courage of pressing send, seeing what happens, going with your gut.
Oh my God.
By the way, not easy for me still in life. That was an anomaly that day. I still live in analysis paralysis.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, a lot of us do. And I think the fact, first of all, I love that your husband's John. My husband is also John, but yours is a Jon. Is he a Jonathan?
He is a Jonathan. Okay, yes, he is.
That's my brother, Jonathan. I have a husband, John, brother, Jon. But I feel like this story is so helpful for people. And look at you. You've left your very, very amazing job of 18 years.
Yeah.
So you've had wild courage to pursue this.
I'm
curious too. Then this is me not even looking at my notes. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What inspired you to say, I'm going to have the courage to walk away from Google? Because a lot of people would say, you're at like the top.
I know.
So what encouraged you to do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not saying it was a good decision. Like time will tell. It really depends what we're optimizing for. Like one thing I had to do was really dramatically shift my relationship to money. And I had to think about what are my other values in life? Because golden handcuffs are real. Yeah. Golden handcuffs kept me there for a very long time, even though I loved my job there and loved my team and loved my responsibilities and loved the impact that I was helping other people have. But so once I was able to shift through many conversations with my financial advisor that yes, we do have a runway. I don't have to live in fear. I don't have to live with a scarcity mindset. I can live with an abundance mindset. I'm a 3rd-generation Holocaust survivor. So fear is just ingrained in my head where it's no, I have to assume I'm running out of money. I have to assume the Nazis are coming. I have to assume that one day it's all going to come crashing in. So through good therapy, and a good financial advisor, I was able to overcome that. But really, Erin, the moment was when I was driving my son Ari back from choir, and we live at the base of the mountains in Boulder. So we have some windy roads to get home. And I was so exhausted leading my full-time Google role, running this program called Own Your Career, which became a massive wildfire success at Google, starting to do all this stuff externally, starting to figure out this book stuff externally, and also trying to be a wife and a mom to 2 kids. One with special needs. And I realized driving Ari home, I was like, did my eyes just flutter closed? Because I was barely sleeping, Erin. I was up from 2 to 5 a.m., many nights with lowercase a anxiety, just so much stress that I was letting everybody down, letting down my team, letting down my family, letting down Penguin Random House, right? And all of the pressure that I had on me because I just simply had taken on too much. And as a great mentor, Julie, once said to me, you can do it all, just not all at the same time.
Yes.
And I was trying to do it all at the same time. And my sleep was suffering, my health was suffering mentally, emotionally, physically. And I was like, I think my eyes just fluttered closed. And I don't know if they did or they didn't, but that was the feeling that I had. And I was like, something's got to give. And I always thought I'd be at Google till I retired. I thought I'd be there easily another 15 years. I loved it there. I still do love Google. But something had to give. And I realized my circumstances changed and I had taken on too much and I had too many opportunities. And the opportunity cost on my time and energy had become too high to stay.
Oh my God. So relatable. I know I'm a mother myself, and I know we have a lot of parents listening to this show. And I know a lot of us can relate to being up at night with that lowercase a anxiety and feeling that same stress. And because we are achievers, we are high achievers, we do say yes to so many things. And I think for you to take a step back and realize what isn't working for you right now was really brave. It took some wild courage, pun intended. And imposter syndrome, I'm sure, played a big part of that too. Hey there, Workday Playdate listeners. A quick pause to let you in on something exciting. This podcast is ad-free because we believe in giving you value, not distractions. But we've got to tell you about one of our most popular team building workshops that's been transforming teams everywhere. From powerhouse companies like LinkedIn, Walgreens, and Amazon to small but mighty businesses just like yours. In our highly interactive, high-energy workshop, our seasoned improv professionals take your team through improvisational activities and customized debriefs, all centered around our golden rule. Showing up plus support equals collaboration. Now, whether your team is in person or remote, they'll walk away with the tools to improve communication, build supportive relationships, and partner better with cross-functional teams. We tailor everything to your needs. In person, we're rocking for 2 hours with up to 100 participants, and virtually, it's 90 minutes of laughs and learning for up to 50 people. Are you ready to energize your team? Let's make it happen. Visit us at learntoimproveit.com. That's learntoimproveit.com, or learn more in the link in our show notes. I am looking forward to hearing from you. Now back to our show. So now, how long has it been since you've been on your own, not at Google?
6 months.
6 months.
It's brand new.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is brand new.
The imposter syndrome is raging with a capital I.
Yes.
S. I am imposter S syndrome.
It is.
There's got to be something there. Yeah.
Yes.
Imposter syndrome is real.
Yes, it is. IS. Well, do you have anything that you're currently doing to help kick it to the curb? Do you have any practices that you even wrote about in Wild Courage that you can help us through?
Yeah. So, okay. One is called the spotlight effect. And so this is really, the shameless trait of wild courage. And shameless is to have the courage to stand behind your efforts and abilities, because it's about finding your swag or audacity, or let's call it shamelessness, is a survival skill. So, how will you learn if you've got the goods if you don't act like it first? So, good example. Well, here's something actually that's been terrifying me. We sent out a bunch of advanced copies. This is it's called a galley or an advanced reader copy, because you're an author, where before the book is published, you send these bound copies, but uncorrected proofs, right? So there's still some typos in there and they're fancy and special. I sent them to 300 people who could potentially bring me in for keynotes or for, or maybe perhaps buy bulk buys of Wild Courage, 200 to 300 copies. And so after I sent them out, I was like, okay, I have to, I've got to follow up with these people over email. And I sent out the first 200 follow-up emails thinking, oh man, I better go to the bank right now to cash, till I'm in line to cash all these checks that are going to come in for these bulk sales and these keynotes. But the reality was a little bit different. And I didn't exactly get 100% response rate from these 200 emails I sent out to companies that might be able to bring me in for a keynote or a fireside chat or to do consulting or facilitate a workshop. And it just really, really got me down, Erin. And I had that last 100. I mean, in all reality, I still have about 50 that I haven't emailed to follow up because I had so much imposter syndrome that people didn't immediately say yes. And of course, these are long sales cycles. These are teams that have to coordinate with other people in HR or learning and development to figure out who they're bringing in for their speaking opportunities or their workshops or their L&D needs in 2025, 2026. But that just small disappointment of each email I sent out that didn't get a positive response, it crushed me and it made it that much harder for me to send out these others, which I still haven't fully sent. So what is the tool there? I call this truths and tales. Truth. I sent out 200 and I still had, I still at this point now have 50 left to send. Truth. I did not get 100% response rate. Truth. Some people did respond and very positively. Okay. Now, what are the tales that I told myself? So a truth is a verifiable fact. Everything I just said was a verifiable fact. And this is a tool to help you overcome the imposter syndrome. So what are the tales I told myself to make sense of those truths? I am failing. Nobody wants to hire me. This book is a joke. This is never going to be successful. I'm an embarrassment to my family because I left my big Google job to go do this on my own. And it is so hard to be an entrepreneur. Think about the shame that is behind those tales, right? And so the tool is if you can simply separate what is truth, what is fact, and a verifiable fact, and what is tale, the story you're telling yourself that makes sense of those truths, then you're able to not just recognize what's in your head and what's reality, but also can you tell yourself a more empowering tale that puts you in a better spot to keep moving forward. So in this case, we can make it up right now. One I could, because I'm still struggling, one I could tell myself is, it is hard to be an entrepreneur, but consistency is the thing that will help me more than anything. The more emails I send out, the more people who will say yes. And if I keep taking swings, eventually that bat is going to connect with the ball and knock this thing out of the park. So that is a new tale I can tell myself. And then I believe that. I actually believe those words that I'm saying too. I've never in my life said this thing about the ball and the bat and the swing, right? But like now I'm like, heck yeah, I'm going to knock that ball out of the park. So there you go. Truths and tales helps you be more shameless.
I love it. And I got to tell you too, like, just know your feeling is I've been an entrepreneur for 11 years. It's still hard. It's very,
does it get easier?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And fun fact for you, I recorded a podcast episode with my husband yesterday.
Fun.
And I've been podcasting forever. He's never been on the show.
Oh, fun.
I've had the show almost 5 years. Okay. And I could see the fear in him. Like, I'm like, okay, you're just talking to me. This is just me. We have like a million conversations a day. But I realized how much fear and trepidation I even had coming to this microphone 5 years ago.
Sure.
And how much over 5 years I've done on this show, on different shows, and how more confident I am just because of the rep.
Yeah.
Right. And the more I've
totally.
done it. And same for like sending an email for a sales pitch and getting rejected. Like I've been rejected so many times now. It's like, it doesn't even faze me anymore.
Yeah. And I'm getting there.
Yes. And I'm like, and when I get a yes, it's so exciting, but it is hard. And especially my husband's in corporate too. So like coming from a corporate job where things are like in-house and you are rejected internally, not externally. It's very vulnerable with a book too. Like I feel like a book is like a very personal thing. And it's like, sometimes you take that, it took me a while to separate that and make that like even though I wrote it from my heart, and I know you wrote Wild Courage from your heart too, to separate it as like a business entity, a business product, not it's Erin Deal's diary that's getting rejected, you know?
Sure.
And that's hard. It takes time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I teed up a tool that I did not deliver on. There's another element here that's exactly relevant to what you just said, which is called the spotlight effect. And that is this social psychological principle that we think that people are thinking about us way more than they are. So if you're lying awake at night worrying about a typo in your email that you sent to the big VP, like that VP is definitely up at night thinking about some mistake he made or she made, not about your email. Like we overemphasize how much we think other people think about us. You know, how your audience might be reacting to this episode right now, or how your husband might be thinking that people might be judging him. Like they're busy thinking about themselves. That's the classic spotlight effect. We assume people think about us. No, they're all busy thinking about themselves. And same with us, right? Like it's why when you're lying awake at night, you're not thinking about the typo that your VP sent to you. You're thinking about the one you sent to her. So that's the spotlight effect. And recognizing that can help a lot. Like nobody cares about us.
I love that. I love like the title of it because it really does say a lot. Like
exactly.
You think it's on you, but literally we're all lying awake with our own internal struggles. I freaking love this. So, okay, let's talk about, and you kind of alluded to this too, you know, with your reasoning of leaving Google because you were out of balance. And so I know you talk about this in the book too, work-life balance. How would you say you are now able to protect, or how can you give us tips to protect our time and set boundaries? Because I know this is something too, like now this is your time as an entrepreneur. You have stepped into every moment counts mode, right? So you have any tips and tricks and tools for us on how we can help our own boundaries and set boundaries for ourselves?
Sure. What I want you to do is to be a little bit more brutal. This is trait 7 of Wild Courage. This is the courage to protect your time and energy. It's the power of no, because people pleasing, which we already touched on, pleases no one and it keeps you small. Yeah. Brutality is much cleaner. It's more effective. And frankly, it's far kinder. And by the way, brutal both applies to ruthless prioritization of your agenda. It also applies to like saying what you mean and saying no without some mealy-mouthed equivocation, right? Because really it's helpful to cut through the bull and spare everyone's time, energy, and attention. But even if we're just talking about like, hey, Jenny, can you hop on a call? Right? Like we know that seems innocuously like it'll be 5 minutes, but that can be 45 minutes of your time plus an hour of follow-ups. So it's all about living. One tool from this, the brutal trait is live by limits and leeway. So what do I mean by that? If you are, it's a 20% rule. So live by limits is if you have a project that your boss gave you, do 20% of the thing first, right? I call this also the pencil sharpener. They give you a really scary, overwhelming project. Once my boss said, okay, Jen, you're inheriting 5 new people on your team. I was like, 4 individual contributors and a manager. I was like, wait, what? I was like, these people have nothing to do with our org or our work or our mission, but somebody at the top thought it made sense. So my job was to make it work. So what did I do? I did a pencil sharpener. I just spent 20% of my time. I gave myself a limit, live by limits and leeway. And I said, I should say I got through like 20% of what I thought could be the next conversation starter with my boss. Okay, let me just open up a blank doc and write down 5 categories. Culture integration of the team, what their metrics should be, alignment with managers and individual contributors, the communications plan, and questions I had for my manager. It was a really overwhelming project to think about integrating these 5 random people into my org. Okay. And it totally came out of left field. But I did this pencil sharpener. I just sharpened my pencil, right? And got some initial ideas down. I sent it to my boss within 24 hours because if you do it quickly, no one's judging you for not having the whole plan in place, but it shows that you're moving the ball down the field. So by putting a limit on it and saying, I'm just going to get 20% of the way there, once it was on paper, boom, we were off to the races, ideating and commenting in the doc, and my boss CC'd included other people. And then we were just making it happen once there was an artifact. So that's live by limits. And now live by leeway. The other part of this 20% rule that helps you be brutal about your time and ruthlessly prioritize is pad your deliverables. So I just got asked something by my publishing team and I was like, okay, I think I can have it. I think it's going to take me 5 days to do this. This was a bit back and it was a little bit of a big project. And I was like, okay, Jenny, you say in the book, live by limits and leeway, pad by 20%. I thought 5 days. I said 6. If you think your budget for your kitchen remodel is going to be $50,000, live by leeway, budget 20% more, budget $60,000. So that's living by limits and leeway. And that helps you be more brutal about your time.
I freaking love it. I love it. The pencil sharpener hits so hard for me because I was you the other night and I did the pencil sharpener. But it was more I gave 30% because I was up thinking about this event that I'm throwing and it was all in my head. And as soon as I put it on paper. Yeah, it felt so good. And so I actually could take action from just that little pencil sharpener. But I love the name pencil sharpener and leeway because it's so good. It gives you freedom to play within the boundaries. So that's super dope. Okay.
Faux show.
Let me ask you this. If somebody listening here today is listening and they're inspired by the book, they're thinking, okay, I have a dream, but I'm sitting on it. What is a bold move? Maybe it's they're even afraid of not just the dream. Maybe it's something simple like speaking up in a meeting or they're taking a new role or just having some type of new responsibility. What is something they could do today to start moving towards that goal?
Okay. Well, they have to apply my goal setting framework, which is rock, chalk, talk, and walk. Rock. What is the goal that you want to achieve, right? So I literally have, my goal is to sell 15,000 US hardcovers of Wild Courage week 1 of book sales, right? Book comes out yesterday, March 25th. So that is my goal. I'm specific. I don't say I want to be a successful author. How do you measure successful author, right? I want to sell 15,000 US hardcover copies of Wild Courage this week. So then I chalk, right? I'm showing you right now, for those of you listening, I'm showing Erin a little sticky that is on my monitor that says, literally what I just said, sell 15,000 US hardcover copies of Wild Courage by, end of this week. Okay. So then you say it out loud, which I just did. So let's say your goal is that you want to do this live event for the first time, right? So you write down have a live event for 200 people. And that is your rock. Do you write it? That's your rock and your chalk. Chalk is to write it down. You talk, you say it out loud. You share the idea with people, just like I'm sharing the idea with you and your audience. Maybe the audience wants to buy the book and they'll come support me in this goal because the book will actually help them. I very deeply believe that. But then you talk about with other people, Erin. You talk about it with partners. You say, hey, I'm doing this big thing. My target date is August 2025. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be in Phoenix, like whatever it is, right? We're going to have these topics. Would you want to come and be a partner on this? Would you want to speak at the event? You share it on social media. That's all part of talking. If you're at work, you share your goal with your boss. How often do you have a goal that your boss doesn't know about? This guy, Phil, who used to report to me, he came to me. He's like, my goal is to do more projects around innovation. I'd like to be assigned to this, whatever, XYZ project. I had no idea Phil liked innovation and wanted more projects. But when he talked to me about it, right, he wrote down the goal. He had it in his head, the rock. He wrote it down, the chalk. He talked to me about it, the talk. And then you got to walk the walk. What is one small thing you can do right now that will advance you toward that goal? That is walking the walk. Let's say your goal is lose 10 pounds. Maybe the small goal is you replace the big plates in your kitchen with small plates, right? It's one small action you can take. In your case, you did it. You did your pencil sharpener. You wrote down the things and you got them out of your head. That moves you toward your rock of that live event. So rock,
Love.
chalk, talk, and walk. Goal setting in a nutshell.
Rock, chalk, talk, and walk. Rock,
you
chalk,
got it.
talk, and walk. It's a new actor's warm up. Rock,
there
talk,
you go. Yeah,
like
totally.
unique New York, unique New York.
Yeah.
I love this, Jenny, and I'm so excited for you. And I know our peeps are going to want to grab copies of the book. So tell them where they could find copies, where they can connect with you, all of the things.
Yeah, definitely. So you can buy books anywhere they are sold. It is available in hardcover and ebook and audiobook. The hardcover helps the author the most because that is what counts for all those bestseller lists that we, care about. Shamelessly, if you're indifferent to format, buy the hardcover. It helps the author. And then I also we talked about saying no. I've got a free guide for people if they want to use it. And it is itsjennywood.com/say no. And that is 8 tips, tricks, scripts to push back on projects, say no to meetings, say no to favors. And then you just feel less guilty because I've written the scripts for you that you can use, live or in emails. So
I love it.
And I'm on LinkedIn. I post every day on LinkedIn.
Okay. We're going to put those in the show notes so people have them and they could go to you, and definitely put your guide in there, the Say No guide as well. Okay. And this is my final question. And I ask every guest, how are you going to make your workday more playful today? What are you going to do?
I am going to, oh my gosh, I want to say I'm going to thank my team because gratitude always makes it feel playful, but I feel like that's a cheat because I feel like it should be something for me. Okay. I am really bad at meditation. I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes today. And that is like a big, tall ask of myself because I don't do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to meditate between now and the next podcast I'm on in a little bit.
Yes. Okay. I love that because you know what? It's going to bring you back to center, and then it's going to make everything else just flow and feel so good. I'm here for you.
Exactly.
For that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got to tell you, this was a great conversation. I think that we talked a lot about trust, coming back to your intention, trusting ourselves so we can trust ourselves, and then others can trust. And if you don't trust yourself, you can't instill trust in others. And I think I really was inspired by so many of your tips and tricks. And I know the peeps are too. So thank you, Jenny, so much for being on the show.
Thanks, peeps. You could have spent the last chunk of time anywhere and you chose to spend it with us. So thank you for giving Erin and I an opportunity to contribute to your goals. So grateful.
Yes. Rock, chalk, talk, and walk. Here we go.
There it is.
Okay, my peeps, let's take a collective deep breath. That was inspired by Jenny's meditation. What did we learn today? Mistakes aren't the thing holding us back. Our fear of making them is. The best leaders aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail boldly. They learn quickly and they keep going anyway. Jenny just gave us a masterclass in owning our courage, our quirks, and our careers. So what's one bold, weird, slightly reckless thing you can do this week? Send that email, speak up in that meeting, or heck, chase somebody off a subway if you need to. Because you, my friend, are here to master this thing called leadership. And I see you. Until next time, remember that every workday is a play date waiting to happen. Keep failing, keep leading, and keep showing up as the boldest, most courageous version of you. because that world out there needs that very special it that only you can bring. I'll see you next time.